Hey everyone, starting to see people slowly trickle in. We will let's give it a minute here. But as we do, want to introduce Josh Farruggio, who's the head of wealth management sales here at Boosted AI. Today, he's going to be walking through um, some of the first steps that people can be thinking about as they start crafting their AI strategy. Um, Certainly last year there was a lot of talk about generative AI, how people can be using it. And this year, I think it seems pretty cool that people are starting to come up with plans for how to use it. But that's obviously sometimes challenging. So we've got Josh here to walk through what people can be doing to get started here. So with that, I will pass it over to Josh to get started on crafting your AI strategy.
Awesome. Thanks, Fraser. Welcome, everyone, to our webinar on crafting an effective AI strategy for investment managers. Really excited to be with all of you today. And really what we're going to do, we're going to explore the practical first steps to leverage artificial intelligence in navigating the complexities of financial markets. So we'll spend some time discussing how AI can enhance decision-making processes, optimize portfolio management, and ultimately drive better outcomes for investment professionals in what is today's dynamic landscape. So we'll go through our agenda. Um, we want to start off with what is the main benefit of using AI in a general sense? And I think it's unique because we're going to be able to use that and address some of asset management's biggest problems. I think what's really unique about our perspective is that we can actually showcase some of the benefits specific to our business or the finance world. And we'll do so today, highlighting some use cases and some workflows that we've experienced with our clientele. Um, I think at the end of the day, we want to be able to help guide you into this version where you can understand whether it makes sense to buy a solution, build one if you have the resources to do it, or simply stay status quo. Ultimately, I think at the end of this, hopefully you guys can get out where you can use this as a guide as to how you can look for AI solutions as you're shopping around. And we'll end the webinar in particular with just some final thoughts and a summary of what we discussed. So the value of artificial intelligence ultimately comes down to two pieces, right? The first one being productivity, and the second one being efficiency. And you can see all of these examples, they sort data to let you do things faster. Whether we're looking at GPS or Waze, leveraging AI to analyze real-time traffic data, providing optimal routes to users, saving them time and fuel, and really doing that through continuous learning, adaptation. These platforms actually enhance the recommendations, demonstrating AI's ability to streamline tasks and improve outcomes in navigating complex environments. The few other examples that we have here, Netflix being able to analyze user preferences and viewing habits, recommending personalized content, and enhancing user experience. Spotify, myself, I have a subscription where I'm listening to podcasts and music. Being able to curate personalized playlists and recommendations based on user listening history and preferences. Amazon obviously being a big one, where using AI in various aspects of its operations, but ultimately, looking at product recommendations, inventory management, logistics optimization, resulting in, again, increased efficiency and productivity. And over the last year, the most popular example being ChatGPT. So leveraging AI to ultimately understand and respond to user queries, providing accurate and relevant information, in other words, real time. So I think the key message here in particular is that AI is around us. It's not going away. And we need to find a way to use it ultimately in our daily workflow as well. So in the agenda, we talked about how we would address some of asset management's biggest problems. And I think with the ever-growing complexity of financial markets and the constant influx of data, portfolio managers and analysts are actually facing heightened pressure to conduct thorough analysis with otherwise limited resources, it feels like. And this is a pretty big challenge, compounded by the downward pressure or trend in fees, which ultimately would put a squeeze on profit margins around. And I think the volume and variety of data available to asset managers has obviously skyrocketed in the recent years, thanks to obviously the developments in technology and data collection methods that are really out there. But this abundance of data actually poses a significant challenge to firms that are trying to process and extract meaningful insights efficiently. And in this environment, I think it's really clear that there's the need for solutions that enable portfolio managers and analysts to scale their analytical capabilities while maintaining this efficiency. And when we think about traditional methods, handling the sheer volume and complexity of data, that's something that asset managers actually now have to encounter. So what are the benefits that we're seeing when it comes to artificial intelligence? And I think ultimately AI enhances work by enabling more in-depth analysis with fewer resources through predictive analytics and pattern recognition, or aiding in identifying market trends, assessing risk, optimizing investment strategies in real time. And I think AI ultimately will drive down operational costs by automating tasks and streamlining workflows, allowing asset managers to allocate resources efficiently, focusing on strategic planning, client engagement, while empowering data-driven decision-making for informed and timely investment decisions. Where I kind of see this, though, in particular, is leading all the way towards better outcomes for investors, and that's what we want to achieve. So revolutionizing asset management by boosting productivity through automation, allowing teams to achieve more with fewer resources. This shift is actually going to enable managers to focus on value-adding activities, such as deeper analysis, strategic decision making, and again, leading to improved client outcomes. By harnessing AI for data-driven decision making, asset managers can actually confidently navigate these market trends and meet the evolving needs of what our clients want today, given this very tech-heavy driven landscape. What I think, though, in particular, though, is that you're going to be able to gain a competitive advantage and demonstrate your intelligence and competence to all the stakeholders involved. So investment management is obviously evolving rapidly. And again, I think stressed enough that AI is actually going to be the forefront of this transformation. And we're witnessing it firsthand, right? As we unlock significant value for our clients across various fronts, combining the power of human intuition with AI capabilities to expedite investment decision making and enhance client outreach. So there's four ways that we really think that we can empower the finance world. And I think one in particular to start would be direct trading. And you can actually direct trade an AI strategy. And it's become more prevalent in the sense that we can allow for more precise and timely execution of trades based off sophisticated algorithms and market data analysis. Additionally, we can actually look at AI revolutionizing idea generation by tailoring insights to individual investment styles. By analyzing vast amounts of data, we can actually get these algorithms to identify unique opportunities that align with our client preferences, their risk profiles, enhancing quality and relevance of these investment ideas. The third in particular, where it gets pretty interesting, is being able to use these technologies to expedite the research process, autonomously generating insights and hypotheses. This can actually accelerate the pace at which we uncover valuable market trends and opportunities, giving us a competitive advantage in identifying alpha generating strategies. And lastly, I think this is actually the most important. It's going to be able to improve client communications by enabling, in particular, a personalized and targeted outreach effort. We can leverage AI-driven analytics, which can deliver tailored recommendations and insights to clients, fostering these stronger relationships and better addressing their individual needs and concerns. But if we pause here in particular, AI is reshaping our world, the investment management space, and it's doing so by amplifying human capabilities, speeding up decision-making processes, enhancing client engagement, and by embracing these AI-driven use cases, we're actually staying ahead of the curve and providing and delivering greater value and innovation to our clients. So let's walk through the direct trading workflow. And users can actually tell the machine a set of principles or provide a variable set that aligns with their investment philosophy. Perhaps you want to look for companies with a PE below 30 or high growth companies that are reinvesting earnings back into the business. Algorithms can actually identify patterns, and then you can trade a basket with parameters and settings that you can control. So using AI almost like a sub-advisor, getting notifications on trades and support your business from a compliance perspective too, which is very, very important. But the main benefit is that this is going to save you a tremendous amount of time. If we look at the second use case that we highlighted previously, the idea generation workflow, going to be very similar to direct trading, whereby you can control or teach AI how to invest by outlining a set of goals. Maybe you are a momentum investor and you want to focus on recent biotech breakthroughs or AI regulation as an important theme. And you want a list of stocks that are actually highly impacted to that in particular. With idea generation, users can actually combine unstructured data like news flow, company filings to generate a dynamic list of companies. And we think about this as replacing the traditional screener with more advanced technology. Really cool stuff here. The third in particular would be AI empowered research workflow. And the reason why this is actually pretty unique is because it's going to slash your time, like I talked about, right? We can summarize news, earnings calls, analyst reports, and other important data that you find of, truly valuable when it comes to the investment process. And I like to think of it where, so long are the days where we're spending hours dissecting an earnings call or reading hundreds of articles on stocks that you cover. If I wanted to do more research on the U.S. presidential election, and understand, based off specific outcomes, which stocks would do well, or any specialized item I believe would be valuable in moving markets, I can actually get AI to surface that. You can view it almost like your, assistant research analyst right at your desktop. And then, like I talked about, improved client communication workflow. I think this is obviously one of the most important workflows, being able to enhance that relationship that you have, speaking to them from a data-driven perspective, while showing you're always on top of shifts in the market. You can get insights on how your portfolio would be affected by perhaps the latest Fed rate cut, or if a company in a similar industry were to report in earnings, get quick notes on how it might affect one of your positions. You can get AI also to write some commentary, right? Based on your investment philosophy and your client demographic, AI can actually write as if you were with a click of a button. And I think it's unique because we talk about the problems that we're facing overall in our landscape, and the answer to all of our problems is generative AI. It's just going to make it possible to do things better, faster, and more efficient overall. So we now know that AI can support us from an investment management perspective, but we now pose the question, should we buy, build, or stay status quo, right? And I think with buying in particular, it's obviously going to be cost effective. It's going to be a faster execution where you can now employ an AI strategy like this, right? With a click of a button or an onboarding very, very fast. You're going to have a team that will actually dedicate um, their their time really to provide consistent updates from a hardware and software perspective. It could be a black box, but there's a lot of platforms out there that are very transparent in what they do. And I think about this where perhaps some of the smaller teams that don't have the resources available, this is actually a really good solution for them. The second would be building your own AI strategy. And I think some of the positives in particular would be it obviously being proprietary to your team, more unique in that sense. It's definitely going to be a bit more expensive, but if you're a larger organization, you can definitely digest that cost. But when we think about the project in general, if you were to take on this, hire the team, and dedicate all the resources to it, it's a very long runway and it's not guaranteed to work. Um, so I think ultimately, when we look at these two in particular, you can definitely decide depending on your organization. But then we face ourselves in the third quad or the third area here where we're going to do nothing. And I think it's the easy way out. It's obviously cost effective. You can wait and see what other teams are doing or other businesses are doing. But the biggest risk that you face in particular is not adapting to the changing market environment. And if your competitors are getting ahead of the edge, well, that kind of leaves you behind. So we believe buying is the right option to get started. Buying offers us a competitive advantage, like I talked about, catering to smaller teams also, and providing consistent updates for fast execution at a cost-effective price point. Whereas building or choosing to do nothing may actually entail greater resource investments and potential delays in reaping the benefits of AI integration. So what can we look for when it comes to an AI solution? And I think this is a good set of bullet points that we can review. Is this a real large language model? Um, are we implementing a repackaged LLM, or is it a unique solution where they have the capabilities, they have the resources, they have the team to build something that addresses the second point, ultimately being finance specific? Is it point in time? Are we looking at survivorship bias-free data? Is the data itself actually cleansed? I think the third one, as you're shopping around, clear expectations. What can and can't this software do? Does it align with the workflows and the problems that I face in my business today? I think overall, though, what's pretty unique, if you are buying a solution, the time to value and the level of support that you are going to receive, right? Is this going to take multiple training sessions? Is it going to be able to fit within our organization? But also, would we have the dedicated resources and support from a customer success team or perhaps any other relationship managers that can assist us in this process? Data privacy. This is obviously a very, very big one. We want to make sure that asset managers have a safeguarded policy that is going to keep their data safe. and obviously keep it in-house proprietary for them. And then the final piece would be looking at coverage. So if we think about coverage, is this actually going to look at the stocks in my universe in particular? And um, being able to address from that perspective, is this something that's actually going to be within that realm of the universe that I'm looking at? I'll leave us with some final thoughts. I think overall, we're going to be able to implement AI because it's going to do more with less. And particularly in investment management, it comes down to two things, whether it's increased efficiency and making more data-driven decisions. We outlined some of the use cases and workflows when it comes to investment managers. Number one, direct trading a strategy, so telling a machine a set of variables that are important to you, letting the algorithm run its course through strategy parameters and settings that now can notify you on trades and help you from a compliance perspective. Idea generation, being able to look at a dynamic screener that is taking into account some pieces from the unstructured data set side. Research, being able to save hundreds of hours, it feels like, whether you're spending time reading analyst reports or listening to earnings calls, reading the news on your coverage of your sector or certain stocks that you follow. And then finally, being able to get AI to assist you from a client communication standpoint, looking at, in particular, any newsletters or commentary, or in general, reasons for why you're making certain recommendations. We left you guys with the notion that buying is probably the right answer, right? You're going to be able to very easily access a team that can dedicate their time, their resources, and it's proven and built to help you with your day to day. And then the final piece, this has to be tailor-made to finance, right? Being able to have something that's going to cover all your needs all in one platform. We don't want to be looking at, multiple different, I guess, softwares to get what we need from a day-to-day perspective. So I'll leave you guys with that. I know we have a QR code on the right-hand side of the screen here. Feel free to take out your smartphone. If you go to your camera app and actually hover over the QR code, you'll be able to click into it. And if you're interested in learning more about what we have to offer, we can certainly help you in that direction. We'll be able to pair you up with a relationship manager as well, and get you started. With that, I'll pass it over to you, Fraser, and we'll go from there.
Well, thanks a lot for covering all this, Josh. I think it's really important to sort of, as you say, get started. And I think these are good first steps for people to start considering. I want to get to questions in a minute, but they actually all kind of seem to overlap on this sort of like, what are the use cases? How are people using it today? So I think we've covered that pretty well, but never hurts to reiterate. I think, yeah, the direct trading, the idea generation, the research, and these client communications are sort of where we're seeing uh, people find value in AI. But having covered those, I'm wondering if you can kind of like walk through in boosted insights itself, maybe idea generation. That seems to be a pretty popular topic, and sort of how we're thinking of solving the problem
Yeah, of
of
course.
of creating ideas.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Thanks, Josh.
I'm going to go into our platform here. And as I talked about the idea generation use case or workflow, um, at Boosted in particular, we like to look at our Discover page as the world's most advanced stock screener. And the reason for this, it's a two-pronged approach. We can be able to look at structured data points like fundamentals and technicals to get a quant rating on a company that we care about. And we can look at unstructured data like news flow, company filings, etc. Pairing that together and being able to look at ideas that are most important to us. So with our discovery page, you can actually build multiple blocks. And what I've done here, I've built a US value screener that's looking at companies that are related to the downtrend in interest rates. I've also built one on US tech growth that is focusing on the rising adoption of generative AI. And what I want to show you in particular is how to build one and how quick it is to get the answer that you need. So as I create a block, I'll label this one demo. I can select any universe that I like. In this case, the S&P 500. If I wanted to do any specific sector work, I can actually select that as well. For now, we'll leave it blank. Um, let's say I want to look for companies that have a decent quant score, anything above a 3.5 out of 5. I can then actually tell the machine a specific investment style. And these have been preset from my perspective of what I believe is growth oriented or value oriented. So in this case, if I click on growth, you're going to be able to see that I told the machine a set of financial criteria, whether I'm looking at liquidity, like a monthly volume indicator, or perhaps total asset growth or sales growth. You can define growth or other investment styles how you see fit. So just by simply clicking any financial criteria that's important to you. From there, we can take a look at themes in the market. And our machine can surface, you know, um, hundreds of themes really that are happening in any universe that you care about. But for today's topic, why not look at generative AI and focus on the rising adoption of that? To finalize all this, we can actually look at news sentiment too. So if I want to look for companies that have neutral to positive news sentiment, I can add that to my block. Once I click generate, literally within seconds, I have a list of companies that I can go now, click into further, get more analysis, understand if it fits within my investment style right in front of my face. So very cool stuff. We think this is actually a game changer and is going to save a lot of people time. So we talk about, again, the efficiency of AI, and here it is right there for you. So I'll um, I'll go back to the QR code on the slideshow in case you guys haven't had the opportunity to scan what we have here. But I hope that answers your question, Fraser, and how we're working with folks on our end when it comes to idea generation.
Well, thank you. And on behalf of the marketing team, thank you for showing the QR code. I appreciate it. But let's cover a few of the questions that folks have been asking in prior and in the chat. But I think one thing that people are really concerned about these days, especially given some of these things we're hearing from the states like AI washing and sort of increased regulations. This question is about how are organizations dealing with the security and privacy concerns when implementing Gen AI.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good question. Ultimately, when I think about it, a lot of firms are actually like implementing robust encryption protocols, access controls. There's even like data anonymization techniques to really safeguard sensitive information for clients. And really, I think they're ensuring compliance with relevant regulations to maintain that trust and transparency with stakeholders. So I think ultimately that's how you can look at it from that point of view.
Well, um, this question resonates with me. In marketing, we're always thinking of like, what is the ROI of whatever investment we are doing? And so some of these asked, how do they measure the payback of AI implementation?
Yeah, I think very good question. And probably the best way to answer that is probably through, key performance indicators, whether it is cost savings, whether it's revenue growth, or perhaps operational efficiency improvements achieved through these like AI-driven initiatives. But I think to add a second layer to that, probably tracking metrics related to client satisfaction. I think that's obviously super important. Employee productivity, want to be able to make sure that everybody's working efficiently. And I think the last point that we made as well is creating this market competitiveness. So you can provide insights into the overall impact and return on investment for this AI implementation.
Yeah, yeah. And like I think also with marketing, sometimes you can just tell that something is working, right? Sometimes it's we especially in a data-driven world, we want everything to have a very measurable um, impact, but sometimes there isn't one. And you can just tell that AI is working because you can tell you're saving time. You can tell, you're making better decisions, etc. So I think both good answers there. Um, this question is about how can you use AI to automate your tasks? I'm assuming in the investment management process.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we kind of went through some of the workflows, but like automating things like reading the news for you or being able to get quick insights on an earnings call that happened about an hour ago. I think that's where we can obviously see it automating tasks, or even the recent demonstration that I just provided on getting a list of ideas that are related to a topic that you care about. That's something that we can really speed up doing. But in a general sense, I think obviously looking at like data entry or um, basic customer service inquiries or client inquiries, maybe a client calls in and wants to know how a drop in interest rates would actually impact their portfolio. I think AI is really good at being able to speed that up. And you don't really need a full team to kind of answer that question anymore. It's going to be yourself and your analyst, I guess you can say, at your desktop to kind of work through those inquiries together.
Um, this question is about sort of how you explain things to your stakeholders. I think that like AI is big and it's new and it's confusing to some people. So the question is about like how do you explain the complexity of these models to investors and sort of what are some pitfalls that people might have to look out for when implementing this stuff?
Yeah, I think it's probably crucial to emphasize like some of the underlying assumptions that are going into the model, or perhaps the data inputs and maybe the potential sources of error or uncertainty to really provide like that transparent understanding of perhaps some of the limitations or pitfalls that would happen with the AI generated model. But I think overall, um, you have to understand maybe like the sensitivity to market conditions and like the risks that we're facing solely when it comes to using data to backtest. It might not accurately reflect future market dynamics, but overall, I think you have a pretty good understanding of how it can support you from past events as well.
Well, um, this is a very topical question. I think, especially last year with the launch of not launch. I mean, it was around earlier than that, but sort of into the public, news or mind. How important is generative AI compared to sort of ML as a whole? I mean, I would let people know that generative AI is a subset of ML, but how important do you think generative AI is in comparison to sort of these other ML type techniques?
Yeah, I think AI, like Gen AI in particular, can actually uncover deeper insights and generate more robust investment strategies. And we kind of saw that again with the idea generation workflow, or perhaps building out like a direct trading use case there, where machine learning kind of focuses on would be more of like the pattern recognition, the predictive analytics. So I think generative AI is going to be able to give you a more broad capability where it could actually revolutionize the decision-making process and drive greater innovation in really the field of investment management.
Cool. Um, Again, this is a pretty common question, sort of how to implement AI into an investment strategy, which I guess kind of overlays use cases and sort of like, I guess, first steps and all those sorts of questions. So yeah, the person's asking, how do you implement AI into an
Yeah,
investment strategy?
I think number one, like now that we have a set of rules to follow as we're shopping for a solution, I think that's step one. But step two is being able to identify specific areas where AI can actually enhance the decision-making process, whether it's through data analysis, pattern recognition, or assessing risk. So being able to develop a plan where you can integrate these AI technologies leveraging either the algorithms or the advanced analytics to really augment um, what would be more of like a traditional investment approach and ultimately or hopefully improve portfolio performance in that regard.
Cool. There's a few questions about this, actually, but one of the question here is interested in stock, fund, and ETF screening and research with different overlays. Like this person's asking about ESG, but I think there's any number of different sort of themes that people might be interested in. So when we can talk about that.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. We kind of saw with the idea generation or the discovery block workflow that you can you can pick a universe and filter it down based off financial criteria that's important to you. Perhaps I want to look at reinvestment rates or price to earnings or price to book, whatever it may be. From there, if I'm looking at the context of ESG, uh, our machine actually has the capability to read over 150,000 sources daily to identify market moving trends. And ESG can be one of them in particular, where now I can pair that up into my screener and get a list of names that meet my criteria again, but also whether it's related to impact investing or maybe I want to look at companies that are fossil fuel free. These are ways in which I can leverage AI to kind of fit that need when it comes to a specific area that I'm looking at. ESG in particular, we actually have the ability to create custom themes as well. So if you're doing research on stuff like debt maturity or maybe small car loans, or again, in this case, ESG, maybe it's clean energy regulation. We can do that analysis. And as we're going through our stock screening process, that's something that we can pair in to ultimately filter down to our subset.
Great. Um, yeah, there's a lot of questions I think about like how people are using it, what are the use cases, what are how do people implement this stuff? So again, this question is kind of pretty similar, so maybe I'll skip it. But yeah, how are people leveraging boosted AI specifically? But I think direct trading, idea generation, research, client communications would be the answer there. The last question I want to cover, and let's give some people some time back. It's a long weekend, and want to give people a little bit of extra time this afternoon. But is about again also stock and ETFs, but how people can think of it like via themes. I think people are probably really excited about the ESG or generative AI or uh, any number of other themes. So curious how people are using ETF specifically to
Yeah,
do that.
very good question. I think the first step to that answer is scanning that QR code so you can meet with our relationship managers to show you our market trends module. And I think specifically, our machine can identify these themes, right? So from there, in particular, if I wanted to drill down into generative AI, I can get a list of ETFs that are highly impacted to what I'm researching, right? And taking a look under the hood the constituents that roll up into that ETF and understanding how they all connect. So I think from an ETF perspective, we can support you in the idea generation lens, but then also, again, taking a look under the hood of those ETFs where you can assess risk. You can understand how it looks into a total portfolio. And then if you really wanted to get creative, you can do things like sector allocation models or geographic specific country allocation models, stuff like that that you can really build upon. So I hope that kind of answers the question a bit, but ultimately we can definitely support for sure.
That's great. Thanks very much. I think we should call it here. I think was had a lot of great questions, and thank you again, Josh, for walking through all this stuff. I think it's great, and uh, thank you everybody for joining, and we will be sending a copy of this later. So really appreciate everybody's time, and certainly yours, Josh. So thanks very much.
Thanks for the time. Take care,
Thanks
everyone.
everybody. You have a great long weekend, everyone. Bye bye.